So just go ahead, start off by telling me your name and your ethnic makeup.
Right now.
We are recording.
Do I have to say my full name? My whole government
You
name?
say whatever you want to say, whatever you're comfortable with.
I am Angela, and my ethnic makeup is African American, of course, Jamaican, Irish, and Indian.
Oh, should I use my full name or like the name I actually go by?
You can use whatever name you want.
Okay, so we'll start with the full name. My full name is Alicia Brooke Dominguez May, and that has to be dragged out. But I go by Lisa May, which is just kind of the name. It's small, it's short, it's easy. It's also pretty white, I guess. It's the white version of my full name.
And you're mixed with?
I am mixed. My mother is white, and that's all sorts of European. We could be there all day listing all those countries. And then my father is Mexican, Puerto Rican.
Okay, so my name is Tony. My last name is Johns. My father is black, and my mother is white. She's Irish and Bohemian. So that's the mix.
Okay.
And I think probably on my dad's side there's some other stuff, but we just claim black, so. Because it's hard to say, like, if I ever feel more black or more white. Like, I mean, I know I've heard people tell stories, like, I don't wake up and I'm like, this is how I feel today. Like, I just feel like me usually when I wake up. I feel tired. I feel like I don't want to go to work. You know what I mean? I feel like, what did I do last night? Like, I don't usually feel like a race when I wake up. But I think I feel the implications of race differently depending on the context and whatever's happening in that context, and also the expectations that people may have for me in a particular context or of me or what they need from me. I think people, when we interact with each other, we ask things of each other, and I think sometimes one is racial performance, and sometimes it's, I think we ask each other to feel okay about things we've done that maybe aren't okay. And so I think sometimes when it comes to race, like my aunt called me once. Here we go. I'll name a story that I don't feel bad naming. My aunt called me once, and my aunt is white. My aunt, whatever. She's white, and she was like, she had joined this new church. Apparently she had made a black friend, which, all right, you know what I mean? And so she calls me, and she's sitting with her friend apparently, and she's like, I don't even know why she called, because we really don't talk that frequently. Like, I don't dislike her, we just really don't talk. And she was like, I'm just calling to say hi, and da-da-da. And she's like, I was wondering, what term do you use, black or African American? And I was like, well, usually I just respect whatever term the person who I'm talking to, how they identify themselves. So if a person identifies as African American, I'll probably use the term African American. If a person identifies as black, I'm gonna use the term black, because that's how they want to be named, you know? And she was like, well, my friend says, and I also said that, at least for me, African American a lot of times is a polite term to use before I know how someone wants to be named. That's just how I do things, I don't know. And she was like, well, my friend says that African American is not a term that people use, they use black. But like the way she said it, it was like, we've decided that you're not black. Like, me, the white aunt, and my new black friend who's never met you have decided that you're not black because you use the term African American. And that was like the end of the conversation. That was like legitimately why she had called. So in that context, I think if I'm challenged on a particular identity, it's going to heighten my awareness of that identity and be like, okay.
That I get more questions about my racial identity from people of color than I do from white people. And I don't know if it's just they're afraid that it's rude, that they can't ask, but I feel like, especially in the Latina community, they always wanted to know, what are you? Because you're not just Latina. But then it's like, well, I'm half white. So now it's the struggle of whether or not they're going to accept me as one of them, or am I an outsider? But it's like, and it's very, I don't know, it's really different being that way and getting that that question, like, who do you get judged by most, I guess?
There's two parts to school. There was the black crowd, or three parts I should say. There was the black crowd, then there was the white crowd, and then there was the mixed kid crowd. I got teased by the black kids growing up, either the darker skinned ones or, you know, the girls used to tease me especially for having longer hair than them. And they would sit behind me in class and they would make kind of like scissor noise because my mom used to keep my hair in 2 long braids growing up most of the time. Or they would call my nickname in school was white girl from the back, because when I used to get my hair pressed and it's down here, they would say, hey, white girl from the back, because if I was sitting like this in class with my hands in my lap, you wouldn't tell, you wouldn't even know that I was black until you came to the front and they're like, oh snap, she's black, you know. But they used to tease me a lot. I remember this one girl, she was a dark-skinned heavy-set girl. She used to, I mean, from 1st grade to like 5th grade, she used to just go in on me all the time. Because when my hair was straight, I would go like this, put my hair behind my ear. And she was like, oh, look at her. There she go again, putting her hair behind her ear like a white girl. And I'm like, oh, snap. The white kids, I don't know, the white crowd was kind of okay with me. I remember the one problem I will never forget was with a girl from Paris. She was from Paris, France. And we did everybody did reports on their family history. So I brought in all the pictures of these people in my mom's family, my dad's family. There's pictures of white people, these, you know, Asian looking people that look like they, you know, Filipino, all of this stuff. And I remember bringing it in and doing my presentation. And I showed a picture of my grandmother and my dad's mother. She's, you know, not black, but, and after the presentation, the little French girl comes up to me and she said, you can't be mixed. I'm like, what? I'm like, she said, you can't be mixed. Once you're black, you're all black. And I was like, oh, this heifer done lost her mind. I said, well, let me ask you a question. I said, if you take a German mother and like a Polish father and you put them together and they have a baby, what's the child? She said, half Polish, half German. I said, okay. I said, so if you take an Irish mother and a black father and you put them together, I said, what's the baby? She said, black. And at that point in time, I couldn't like kind of mentally collect myself, because I'm like, are you kidding me? It's just because even if you're 25% black or 80% black, I mean, that just boggles me that just even like a little teaspoon, 10% black, or if you're all white and, you know, you just got this little bit of black in you, that just makes you all black. And that, to me, that's just not fair, because a mixture is a mixture regardless. That's like a Kenyan and a Nigerian. You're Kenyan and you're Nigerian, or Jamaican and Canadian. You're Jamaican and you're Canadian. So, but with the mixed kids, I kind of fit in, then I didn't fit in, because I wasn't your normal looking. They didn't see me kind of as your normal looking mixed child, which kind of hurt my feelings a little bit, because I'm like, really? But the only time I really fit in was with there was like a little group of Caribbean kids.
Talk about, I guess, growing up in Madison with your white mother.
Mm-hmm. So I think before I was talking about growing up in Madison with my white mother, I don't recall it being something that I thought a lot about. I think what I thought more about was the people we were spending time with and the people that were in our house or whatever, you know, and how I felt like I was treated by them. And a lot of times I felt like I was the only black person they were interacting with, and so I got a lot of, well, why do black people do their necks like this? And I don't know, I didn't even know that was a thing. Like, I'm like 9, I don't know, or why do black people snap like this? I don't even know what you're talking about. You know what I mean? Like, so a lot of, help me understand 9-year-old child who's raised in this white household with like all these white people, help me understand black culture. And it's like, okay, or the assumption, a lot of other assumptions that are put out there then were put on my black side of the family, so it's like, oh, your family's not good, or these are stereotypes I have of your father, these are stereotypes I have of of your black family, you know.
Well, I have a question pertaining back to your childhood. I know for me, there was like a defining moment where I decided that I was multiracial or biracial instead of black. Was there a defining moment in your upbringing where you're like, this is why I'm defining as what I'm defining as? And you know there's no right answer.
Right. I don't know if there was a defining moment in my childhood where I decided to, I mean, I've always preferred the designation of mixed because when I went places, people assumed I was Latina, and that's what they thought they were going to meet. When people see you and have a perception of you, they expect you're going to act or react in certain ways. I should speak Spanish because I'm Latin. I mean, I had 5 years of Spanish classes, and I'm not a linguist, so I just couldn't connect to learning how to, I can tell you about my yellow pencil. That's what I know in Spanish. But my mother thought that because I was mixed, I should learn how to be mixed. So there wasn't really a defining moment for me where I was like, no, I am mixed, because it allowed me to pay homage to my white family. And when I turned 22 years old, my father, Roland Dominguez, thought that trying to call me to talk about all the issues and really reconnect so I could know my father was a good idea. And I had gotten to 22 pretty much without him, and I told him where he could go. And that was pretty much the defining moment where I decided, even though I am mixed and I still prefer to identify as mixed, that Hispanic family isn't part of my life. That Hispanic identity isn't something that I wanted because it had to do so much with him. And it's really difficult when you decide that for yourself, that this whole identity, this identity I look like, isn't what I want, isn't who I want to associate with. This isn't who I am. My white family, my Anglo-Saxon waspy family is who's been there for me, and that's what I want. That's who I want to identify as. So I'll say I'm mixed because it's the only way I can get away with identifying with these people, but on the inside I'm really very Caucasian. So it became that was probably my defining moment at 22 years old. On Easter, he's trying to talk about, will you come and spend Easter with the family? And it's like, no, I won't. You lived 6 blocks away. You had my whole life to be any kind of dad, and you chose to be no kind of dad. I mean, even a bad father sends a card once in a while. Even a bad father might call his daughter. A bad father might remember his daughter is turning 15 years old and get her that quinceañera that he said he was going to do for her and not forget. Which might have been something to help me connect to my Hispanic, culture a little bit. Maybe I would have been a little bit more interested and invested if we could have done things together, and he just didn't. So, 22 years old, I told him where to go. And it wasn't until last year or the year before when my stepmom Kim died of some freak heart something. I know I was not okay, and I had to hear about it from a college professor that knew her, because I wasn't speaking to Roland. And my sister called me and went, will you come to the funeral? That I actually saw that man. And I went to the funeral, and he came up and hugged me like I was one of his own, but it had been so long since I saw any members of that side of my family that my grandmother didn't recognize me. Like, she looked me in the face a foot away and took 5 minutes before she recognized who I was, because they were so absent. And then they all want to talk about your family gatherings and all those things, and it's like, but we're not really family. You want to talk about I'm family, but it's always just been, where's that lost Dominguez child? So they're not really part of my identity anymore. It's super complicated. That got deep.